longest standing politician in Nigeria, Peter Obi said. 10 minutes. The chairman of the deputation, Peter Obi, His Excellency Peter Obi, thank you. His Excellency Kanayo Esinulo, Nendibo, His Excellency, our own mother, the only governor, female in Nigeria, what America couldn't do. You know, we are ahead in civilization. You know, Ndi Womea. Let me start by saying that this is a setup, that a rare privilege. When Ben called me about this review, I didn't think it was something I could do or something I was qualified. But he did not ask me, because no matter what review. He just told me, no matter what review. You know, there are two different things. You know, and we have been close. You know, we discussed, and I felt I had to. But the other thing he has mentioned in the course of introducing me earlier is about that I'm not a conformist. I think he was relating about the life of elites and the aristocrats. I choose to live the life I understand. I think that's just it. And in this book, you will also find where Ojukwu clearly stated that in the letter to Kanayo, he said, I am not a socialist, although I can borrow thoughts from them, but don't mistake my application of the thought as if I'm a socialist. I will never be an elite, neither will I be an aristocrat. Not that it is not something people should admire, but listening to the lives of Ndia, to the lives of Ben, and so many people who are here that are elites, Professor Nebo, you will discover that this thing is not something you ascribe, it's something you have to attain. And if you go to belong where you shouldn't, it goes to a point Kanayo made in the book about split personality. When you have a split personality, simply you have no personality. That's my understanding of what it means. Then secondly, Kanayo, I want to thank you. Because when he came, I said, I have nothing more to say. You not only reviewed the book, but you shared practical experience of what is contained in the book. So, how do I start? If, in a way, as I want to proceed, my English is not going, the communication is not as you would expect, just take it that it's coming from Comrade, not from the other side. Those who are here. That is just the point. So the book, clearly the title, Ojukwu, Exile, Diplomacy, and Survival. The author have already known. The publisher had already spoken to us. In fact, after listening to the publisher, I now discovered that I'm also qualified to have a biography. Everyone will know why in the and when you come back here, about me. The purpose of writing this book is clearly stated in page 13, Roman figure. And you read it up yourself. very clearly the experience he's trying to share with us. The other aspect is the reason. The reason is because he was involved and bore some thorns. Ikemba would have said that Kanayo had more stings than honey from a distressed bee, a phrase he had used sometime in relation to a discussion with his in-law. Source of information, very clear. You know, when the CNN says, be the first to know in their channel, they are only saying, be the first to pick the news from their channel. But in this case, Kanayo was reporting something he experienced. What we say, practical experience. As you they see, they show. Not them say. So what it means is that this is not a book you will want to critique. Because criticizing it means Guinea also Jenga Guinea also Sabo Ojukwu. Guinea also why. So I came from the point of first, that point was made earlier here. Even the book Mutagodi na Bukwa Buno de Kayana Rapo Kaidi. Na Chuzi Kaya the wrong. What do I mean by this? You know, when we talk about the 66 crew, we keep saying that they are saying it is Ibuki. It is Ibuki. Do we have to keep debating that? When, if we look at history, particularly if you pick a copy of the report of the Tribunal of all UK, you will discover that by 1953, when Akintola postponed his trip to Kano, as a result of the booing and jeering of northern representatives that had left Lagos, so what it means is that in a society where you have a group that have the spirit of Kantu, those that are conservative will always be envious. And because envy is demonic, it seeks to destroy that is envied. So we are not supposed to give Israelites that complain is here about whether they are hated about the Holy Ghost. What they do is that before even you think you want to attack them, they have, you know, and these are the kind of orientation, because only a Choroki beer. And you know, didn't beg it, don't say begging. When I lost the NLC election to take over from Comrade Adams, I didn't go complaining that I would have been the Brits president and what have you. I left the trade union movement. I came to Enugu, resigned from the public service without option. And I'm still going to talk about the aspect you didn't even talk, though I know you must be planning another book. Because the kind of service you gave is spiritual, ordinary service. You know, so that I came back, went into farming. I'm sure any person in the Enugu that talks about rice today will want to talk about Comrade the pure rice. In fact, just last year, I was able to complete a rice processing mill around Proda that has the capacity of 30 tons per day. You know, and people can access to it. I'm on Enugu without lobbying. When I was appointed pro-chancellor, it's something I didn't think I can do, because joining the elites, I'm scared. So somehow, because it has to do with agriculture, I have to go. The intended audience, the intended audience of this, we can talk about Nigerians, but I'm not you. When Ikuge walked in, I went to receive and greet him. I've had the privilege of also being in a program where Humboldt delivered his experience. Even Najubo, Indiana Wada, Kedizindi, Nedomiha. Because it's like when they talk, you see from how they view experience. I am a Roswada class. I am already class, and we keep talking about the youths. They are in a haste and what have you. That is the greatest threat that Bendy won on. Because often, in fact, I just told Comr, I am 65 and I'm worried. I am, sir, but I was lucky. I was lucky to have associated with people like you. All my stories I would have wanted to say, but if I say it, then the publisher will not be keen in my biography. You know, you may not know that your election was something that can be described as Makta is an historic watch. But the only person who can understand this is Jomo. Why? Because you were there when we fought to deepen the participation of Ndiwo. Nohanese, I think I was the youngest in that team. At a point, then wanted to describe us as rebels. Then was when governors had no business with Ohanese. Ohanese was independent. But what's the allusion I made about your election? At that point, there was a move that Joe would have emerged president of Ohanese. Ben was the Secretary General. But along the line, politics played out. He didn't. We didn't know that God was saving the time. You will come and reincarnate Ohanese in the spirit of what we had under ZSK Obi. Before Euroz's government, as a result of the crisis of 60s, decided to dissolve the tribal unions. But then the only tribal union that was standing very strong in Nigeria was the Igbo Union. That was what you tried to rekindle. The other part of the story you will read when I have the privilege of writing. Come on, 5 years. So in the prelude, if you look at the prelude of the book, it's very clear how 11th hour of the collapse of Biafra. People will want to know who were those who pressurized Ojukwu today. Because it's not as if that when division 12 division collapsed, that Ojukwu just panicked. No. The man started plotting other things. And there was pressure. Who were those who pressurized him? And who were those who joined him? Our Lord Bishop was mentioned. But all of please, when you read the book, you will be able to find out. Aburi Accord. So much has been spoken about Aburi Accord. But Ojukwu said he believes in Ahara Declaration. So you must read the two. There was something Ojukwu regretted, I think maybe unto death. And that was the phone call he had with Lieutenant Colonel Hassan. But given the assurance, he now said, this is a sacrifice the Igbos have always made. Now this one I need too much. And when they returned, what went through and the plane he sent to see Bakwita people came empty. So it pained him to death. That was what you reported here. Kanayo also defined for us Biafra and the birth of Biafra and what have you. But here he captured this out that Biafra means born in agony, fighting to remain alive. That is the fate of Ndiwo till today. So if we don't translate this as something only war with the Ebino, we want to Lagos, we want to Kano. Even as I'm from the Igbo, even as we are DNA, what God has given you, and for which, like I said earlier, and when you're up with 15 years, you want another thing Kanayo worried about was those who stood by Biafra during the war. There were many countries that recognized us, those who were on the verge of recognizing us before the collapse. You can talk about Nyerere, Kaunda, Papadok of Haiti. When at critical moments the Igbos would have extended felicitation or even sense of compassion, we did nothing. Why? Find out. He briefly talked about King Pepo of Amainogo. But something I took away there is that the picture that was painted about Asika is not entirely true. Asika, at that point, also had the Biafra spirit. Because the FA Steve had technically banished the king from returning to Rivers. And Asika not only housed him in Enugu, but when the man volunteered to return to Aba, he provided accommodation so that he would be close to. Only the against evil interests and Biafra will not do that. And I believe, if you know how government works, the HST may have reported to a higher authority and they will say, forget about that. So it is something that we also need not to appreciate, but to say, where lies that spirit today among our people? There is this young man in the book, but I believe he may not be young now, Enejere. Enejere is a standing story about commitment. And immediately he left the project, your problem started. My brother, 3 years in detention is not 3 days. It's like people who talk about temptation. A man who is tempted and spend just 5 minutes, and a man who spent like 1 hour, and a man who spent like 1 month cannot have the same experience. The only person that is a realist when it comes to temptation is Jesus Christ, because he never succumbed to any. But in this case, I shared your feeling because under the military, I've had an encounter, and this I know I was detained not less than 10 times, but none was beyond 10 days. In fact, I was in detention. I didn't know what would have happened to me when Temiejo, an announcement came, and Temiejo had to be reassigned to Abia, and Tori came. It was Tori who released me. So when you were talking about 3 years, now I say, and I can't go, I can get. But this is a price you pay, and how you now treated the return from exile conforms with what I do in my NGO, Service Accord. When you serve without expectation, you will not have dashboard. That's what I've discovered. When you give service, what people don't know about service is that the first beneficiary of good service is the man who gave it. Because you are satisfied, you have performed, done your own bit. Do unto others the way you will want to. If reward comes, double portion. You know, when people talk about double portion, you know, double portion. If you are lazy, your double portion is double laziness. Because the case of Elijah and the Elisha, if Elisha didn't have any anointing, if he was not in tune, the method that fell off wouldn't have meant anything to him. So I usually tell people, when you serve without expectation, even if you are not rewarded, you go with the experience. So that is just one point. And there is something you still need to let us know. Ojukwu, while in exile, was tracking events in Nigeria. In one occasion, he asked him to send some books. And after reading one, he described it as a ponderous diatribe. Read and find out who Ojukwu was referring to. Then the second one, Ojukwu described in his statement, the first general that I know to make capital out of his own defeat. Who was Ojukwu talking about? Read it yourself. And in reading it, you also know whether that's the kind of life you live. You'll find that in page 131. Ojukwu also felt a bit disquiet when in the course of his pardon, Gowon was granted first in October 1981. That means the kind of a person Ojukwu is not a man that will want to take second position. Here you are a man who fought with you, and let's now say he won the war, but along the line things happened, he escaped, and you were still expecting that you will be pardoned before the man. Man, no open people. You were our last. But if you now read his letter on why Gowon was pardoned, you will now know that we can't finish talking about the man. And let me share this with you. Incidentally, I got close to Ojukwu through Comr when we were on our Exile. There was this project we were working on just for an Exile. The late Victor Comr Wankwa was alive. Professor Eleti, Emekaron was there. We were meeting in Ojukwu where snake keeps guide. That is at Independent Lab, because you are warned, beware of snakes. So when we attend the meeting, there will be all sort of drinks. But there will be this keg of wine, now palm wine. And people will be busy. Up with our same comrade. I said, young man, so in one occasion, we found that money have money and so. So it was one day, maybe you wrote that, maybe you wrote that. It happened the first time, the second time. So the third time, you couldn't reach a sick or Ghana or whatever. So when they tested it, I said, comrade, yeah, train, so that's the kind of a person. But who has a way of identifying, let me not say talent, with all sense of humility, those who think that can stand on their own. That's how I would want to interpret it. But to end this, because like I said, I was given 15 minutes, but His Excellency said, I don't want to exceed it. There was something in this book which will tell you Ojukwu. And that is on page 145. Page 145. That's how I want to end. When Ojukwu returned, in the book you will discover that Ojukwu didn't actually want to come back to join politics. In fact, he had floated a party while out. They called it Popular Democratic Front, PDF. And was already talking about alliance. And you will know by 1978, we had already a new constitution, a new guideline on registration of political parties. Given that under Moritala, they had moved away that parties must be nationally rooted in order to avoid the experience of the First Republic. But Ojukwu had floated a party, not registered, and was trying to use it to go into alliance. That will tell you. But that's not the one I'm talking about. You will also recall that in 1978 towards 79, that Zik, as presidential candidate of MPP, had issues with his tax payment that ended in court, and the court had pronounced that he paid as an well-due. But here we are, Ojukwu obtaining FEDECO form, filled the form from Ivory Coast to contest the election in Nigeria. If I have the form, if I don't feel it, Manolusiebe tax. And we call them every year. It is the only people feed ever. Any other relevant information, would you put there? I possess no taxable income in Nigeria. The guy, look at that,